Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Roswell, New Mexico. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, let's start off with Isabel and Maria's side of things, where basically they're kind of almost going on a little bit of a... It's kind of almost a spiritual yet also psychedelic journey to a certain extent, as Isabel kind of says, like, let me be your white rabbit, let me be the white rabbit, taking you down the rabbit hole to Wonderland type of situation. So, which I love that even Maria's kind of like, right, you just had to say white rabbit because now my subconscious is manifesting this in like almost a borderline Alice in Wonderland inspired theme to an extent, but obviously they both take a deep dive into her mind and see all this like fragmented stuff. We see like Roy and Luis, and we see like Max and Jones, and you see Kyle fiddling with the radio, and then there's there's Rosa, and then there's Michael, and then there's like Jordan and his people, like I think Jordan and his buddy Zeke like causing stuff, but essentially it's like I think it makes perfect sense that Maria's mind would manifest like the key subconscious figure in her mind to be Liz. Liz is going to be like the tour guide of her subconscious, of being like, yeah, basically you have to deal with all this. Like all this right here is basically your mind trying to overcompensate. It's compensating for the fact is that vision you saw was kind of traumatic, and your subconscious is trying to bury it because it's painful and all this other stuff. You have to kind of resolve all of this before you can get to the deeper levels of your subconscious and access that vision. So obviously there's a little girl doing karate, which Isabel was like, I want to like run like a karate like or self-defense class for little girls. And it's like, oh, that's really sweet. So that gets dealt with. And so slowly, but we never actually get to see it in the episode, but I'm assuming it's like, right, the Kyle thing, the Michael thing, the other thing, like, because when we cut back to it later on, there's the Roy and Luis thing, as well as the whole situation with Jones and Max. And so obviously you have Maria still being in the dark about like, all right, so we got to bring it up. Max is a clone. It's like, wait, what? It's like, yeah, the OG Max is actually this dude Jones. But the thing is, we kind of had, it's like, well, you've had him locked up for entire years. Like, not really. I mean, technically he was in the pod for like 51 and a half weeks, but the fact of the matter is, like, him being locked up in the cage is only like a more recent development. So it's not as bad. But it's like, right, she's the last to know. I mean, to be fair, like, everyone else is kind of getting filled in on the details as things are kind of going on. To be fair, Liz is still in the dark because she has no idea about the whole Jones situation. So you're not even the last one to know, but you're the most recent. You're just, second to last person to find. Well, because Alex doesn't know either. So I guess that makes you like the third to last person to figure out, because I don't think Alex doesn't know, and neither does Liz, if I remember correctly. No, Liz definitely doesn't know. I believe... does Alex know? I'm already blanking on it right now. I'm sure I'm being an idiot right now. I'm sorry. But, nevertheless, it's like, you're not the last one is kind of the whole point I'm trying to make. But, Isabel had to like confront the fact is that yes, she doesn't trust Jones, but the fact is like, it's like, regardless of it, she still has that empathic feeling of like, he's sincere about how much he cares about Max, that Max is all that he cares about. And she's like, she actually, regardless of not being able to trust him, she does trust that he does care about Max. And it's like also this feeling of like, he feels like family, which kind of ties in very nicely with, the other situation. Cause it's like, okay, so, what's this got to do? And, Maria's like, oh, you mean like my great-grandmother, your sister? And it's like, yeah, tomato, tomato. She's like, no, it's not simply that. It's like, we haven't really talked about it much. It was like a little bit of a discussion and whole thing last season, but we've never really dived into it. And for her, it's like, I'm part human, but, so like, but I'll only ever really connect, like I've only, have really my mom, take care of, but then like, she has the alien side, but she feels, for lack of a better term, alienated, because like it's like I'm half human, half alien, and I just feel like I don't belong anywhere. Like where she should be embraced by Isabel, because they are like that. Like other than her mom, like she doesn't have any other family except for Isabel, and Isabel's the closest thing to being like, right, like I want to know like where my like great grandmother came from, like I wanted to know where Luis came from and everything. I want to, which now Isabel is more informed about it, but it's like that's a side of herself that she's only recently obviously gotten acquainted with. So for her, it's like she's kind of felt lonely, but even Isabel realizes like she was kind of pushing her way, not necessarily intentionally, but she never really took the time, because to be fair, I think also vibing with other people, she's always had a feeling, but she's always only been concerned about Michael and Max. They've always been the only family. Now she learns that she has other family in Maria that she just kind of threw to the wayside, because even before, like, all the relationships she's ever been focused on so far has been maintaining, like, her, her relationship with her brothers, Max and Michael. But now it's like, right, I also have, like, my great niece situation going on here. So I need to, like, take that into advisement as well, because you are family. At the end of the day, you're just as much connected to this, not just because we're related by blood, but also you are part alien. So all this alien stuff does involve you too, because this is a part of your heritage, part of who you are. Understanding that will help you understand yourself, which, I mean, all three of them, Max, Michael, and Isabel, a big part of this story is them finding out about themselves, understanding themselves when they've, especially Michael, because he's always been the one with the most questions. So it's a big part of their arc and story this season. So there's that element to it. So we'll circle back to the vision when we kind of come to the end of the episode. But other elements, we have Kyle visiting Michael for help with the radio, and he heard the message from his dad. I was like, oh, that's spooky. I was like, but how is that possible? And it's like, it turns out his dad had recorded a message on the alien glass inside of the radio. So it's both a receiver and, outward recording as well. So they have to fix the device and everything, which for a moment after they do, it kind of goes a little haywire. And I love that one moment, like, Kyle has his hand on Michael's shoulder, and Michael just, like, grabs his hand, tosses on my shoulder, like, tosses his hand off his shoulder. Don't touch me, bro. And Kyle's almost like, really, dude? But they listened to the recording, and basically his dad was warning Kyle not to follow in their footsteps. The Valenti have a legacy of basically protecting those, ever since the crash, of protecting those who never belonged. And it's like his father followed that creed, and he did to some extent, but he doesn't want Kyle to, because it's like, oh, it's going to cost a great sacrifice at the end. And regardless of that, Kyle chooses not to walk away. I think it plays into, like, him being a doctor. It's like, right, when you have the ability to help someone, you're going to, especially because, I think there's a part of him that's kind of like, right, my family legacy is tied to this as well, but also he doesn't really dive into it too much, but it's like, you guys are people I do care about. I'm trying to make sure that Max is okay. Like, you guys, like, you are people I care about, because you're people in need. And for him, all he ever wants to do is help those who are in need. So I think that kind of puts things into perspective. But even Michael's like, do not follow this line. Like, you heard what your dad said, like, get away from this. It's like, look what happened. Your dad ended up dying under the circumstances he did. It's like, walk away from this. It's like, no matter what I do, like, what am I supposed to do? Like, build an airship, like a spaceship, go to a planet to help some people, like, I, for one, don't really know, with a war and save them from a war that's already most likely been decided. Have even less reason to go back, considering now that your father is the mad ruler that he is, the villain that he is. So, like, that has even less reason. And it's like, right, it's like, I can do as much as you can do to help us. But at the end of the day, Kyle was talking about the fact is it really simply as that, or is it just you're using every excuse you can not to, because basically you've kind of figured, like, everything is kind of set in stone, so, like, why even bother? And that's a conversation that kind of resonates throughout the episode to a certain extent, especially when you have, like, the whole Wyatt and Rosa situation. Because he's asking questions about what happened to his sister. He doesn't want to look it up online because he's like, and his mom won't tell him anything about it. Because obviously it's like, right, you don't remember this traumatic thing that shifted the course of who you were in many different facets. And it's like, it's such a painful thing that they don't want to relive it. And it's like, if we can save you the pain of having to live through it, then that's fine. It was interesting because Rosa brought up something interesting when they were talking. I mean, obviously she's kind of done like, oh, I have no idea, even though, like, she's kind of dead center in the middle of all of this. Somewhat pun intended with the whole dead word. But it's like, obviously, once again, that's not even, sadly, Rosa will always take the fall for it, even though that was beyond her. That wasn't her. It's like, sadly, she's the easiest explanation. Like, they would never be able to clear her name. So, which I'm sure that definitely affects Rosa a lot because, well, first and foremost, Jordan ran his mouth and it was like, oh, you want to know what happened to your sister? It's because of her cousin, the Ortega family, like Rosa. She ended up killing your sister, so that's what happened. And it's like, yeah, here she is lying to you, and it's like, oh, they ain't worth dirt, blah 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 blah. Very closed-minded, ignorant stuff coming out of his mouth, you know. But the conversation I found was really interesting, and maybe this came up earlier seasons, I don't remember, but Rosa and Wyatt were actually tight. Like, she's like, yeah, we used to listen, like, she's like, yeah, Liz told me that you and Rosa would actually listen to like Nirvana and stuff like that. They actually got along well, and it's like, I guess that's why, like, he lashed out and, like, went the very hardcore route he did, just because it's like, so, like, I guess, like, he grew up in an environment that festered that hate he already had for the Otecas because of Rosa, and it just made him, like, just terrible human being. But it seems like there was something there, and I'm like, that kind of explains why Rosa is like the way she is with him, because it's like when she looks at Wyatt now, it's like, right, you're the Wyatt I remember way back in the day, the one I used to kick it and hang around with, like the one she potentially had feelings for. But then, like, everything shifted when she, well, I don't know if, like, all that, like the racist stuff, like him just being a terrible human being, whether that happened already before she died. It probably did, and then, like, it escalated even more. Like, he just doubled down and just drowned and surrounded himself and drowned himself in it after his sister died. But I thought that was so fascinating to be like, oh, that's why. Because I was like, why is she, like, and it's also kind of her kept secret, but it's like, why are you so intense? It's like, right, because you and Wyatt have a history where it's like, you're seeing the Wyatt you used to know, like when he used to be kind and there was a connection between you. So I was like, that makes a lot of sense. But she ends up, you know, opening up to Wyatt because he ended up finding out for himself, like, what exactly happened, you know? He got the full details, and now he realized, like, because he had looked up the YouTube videos of, like, right, like, all this ignorant stuff I was saying. He was like, no wonder you didn't feel safe to tell me, because you didn't know how I would react. And he's like, I'm so sorry about that. And for Rosa, it's the whole conversation of, she's like, I know what it's like to wake up one day and wonder, like, what happened to your life. Because for her, it's like, I'm going through, like, you know, sobriety, and for her, it's a thing of, like, she almost feels like her accomplishments aren't her own because she's not doing it as Rosa. She's doing it as someone else. So it's like, Rosa, who's dead and will always stay dead because I can never fully be Rosa. I will always have to be this person that, you know. So there is that level of, like, losing your identity. It's an interesting and complex element of, like, right, having to pretend to be someone else while still being yourself. And it's like, how can I hold on to these achievements because I'm not even being myself, because I'm pretending to be someone. So these achievements go toward this person I'm pretending to be and not even the real me, because I can never be the real me because the real me has to stay dead. So I think that's the element to it. I think, I don't know, it's gonna be interesting to see where things kind of go from there. I think but it's like, yeah, she had filled him in about everything that he had done, but she had also brought up the conversation of, if we aren't allowed to kind of change and be the people we want to be, then, like, what's the whole point of life, you know? So I'm very interested to see, like, once again, like, will any of his memories ever come back, or is it, you know, I mean, because if he does get his memories back, will he turn back into that person? Now he does know the truth of who he was, but it's like, well, now you know who you were, you're going to try extra hard not to be that person. But if your memories do come back, will you slide back into being a person? Like, it's that complicated, you know, if you get your memories back, who you were, because that's back, versus who you've become without your memories, and that struggle. And I feel like who you become now will disappear and give in to who you were with your memories. That's what I think, because I'm very pessimistic, because sadly these type of stories end up flowing that way and not the very, like, happy ending you would hope they would be. It's, once again, regardless of he ends up being a better person, it's still a complicated thing of, like, right, this terrible, but he's a different person now, so it's like, it doesn't erase all the terrible stuff he's done, but now he recognizes, like, right, this is who I am, but I want to make sure I stay the person I am now. So we'll see if things play out that way. So, right, I kind of skimmed over it a little bit because I wasn't fully remembering everything that Kyle had said to Michael, but basically it was along the lines of, you're running away from it. There's a person that has all the answers you've been wanting since you were 7 years old, yet you refuse to go to him even though you have him locked up. So there's that avenue with it. So, at the same time, like, I'm surprised he didn't take more of an advantage of it. I thought we would have had him like doppelganging it up, but he didn't. But you have Jones out and about. He shaves his beard pretending to be Max, and he reads Tripp's journal. And for him, it's like, that's why they think I'm so evil. And it's like, that the moment he said that line, I was like, oh, maybe you aren't the bad guy everyone thinks you are. I mean, it could just be you are a very complex character, that you have done some evil stuff, but it's also the thing of that you aren't pure evil. And I thought that was so fascinating, because he was almost like, no wonder Michael, Isabel, and Max don't trust me. Like, if I didn't know me and just read it based on Tripp's perspective, because even Tripp only had one perspective, because the whole thing is written from Nora and Luis's side of things. He was in love with Nora and everything. So, like, it's only written from that perspective and not his story. And so obviously he hurts that dog, and then he ultimately heals the dog, and it's like, that's his little buddy. And it's like, oh, like Nora always said, like, basically life kind of takes its course through the accidents, and he was like, oh, you're kind of like my happy accident. So I think he was initially looking for his sword, but I think like Max obviously buried it in a different spot, so he was looking through the safe to try and find it, but he couldn't. So going through Kyle's medical files to find Max's medical file, and sees like, oh, like he's in heart failure. It's like, oh, this isn't good. He came back to show Max a memory of him confronting Roy and Luis. And it's like, give me back the boy, tell me where he is. And it's like, reading Roy's memory, he finds out like, oh, he's in a pod. And later on, when Michael rescues Max and they confront him, it's like, yeah, I've done, like, maybe by saving Max he can make up for some of the evil he's done, because he had talked about it in the memory of like, Max is like a part of him, it's not just like it's like a father-son relationship, but it's also deeper, because we are a part of each other. Like, he is another part of me, and it's almost like he will never feel whole if he never has Max by his side. So, but Michael's reluctant to kind of trust him. But he's like, right, you just got to let me heal you. And Max is like, you could die. And he's like, well, then it'll be my way of making up for what I've done. It's like, he's like, why? I don't get it. Like, just why he's going above and beyond the way he does. So seeing the memory, he finds out Luis had led him into like a trap. And it's like, right, he'd been moved. It's like, wait, did you move him in one piece or pieces? And it's like, we're trying to help him. He's like, then give him to me, because I saw what you were doing in there, like all that you had. And it's like, so what they were saying, they were trying to help him in what shape or form? Was Max in bad condition even back then? Maybe like the cloning process wasn't perfect, so they were trying to find a way to fix him. Or are they trying to fix him in a sense of he's a direct clone of you, so some of those, maybe from their perspective, those evil genes of yours, the fact of the matter is, maybe they were scared. Like, once again, I believe he's supposed to be like what everything Jones wasn't. Jones is this evil figure just from their perspective, and so they were trying to maybe concoct and find a way to make Max everything he is, and that Max will be the hero, the savior that he's supposed to be. So, but him and Luis end up fighting, and it's just like, give me back my boy. And I think there was almost this look of shock on Luis's face. It's like, right, this is this devil we know, yet he cares about this child so much. But it's like, right, they can't kill him, because if they kill him, they kill Max. And it's like, well, the only way to make sure is to lock him up, and that way Max is always going to be okay. But now it's a situation of knowing, like, right, Isabel and Michael's moms locked him up, and they took Max from him, So it's like, right, it's because even Michael's like, I don't know whether it's a thing of like, I just don't trust him, or is it just that I don't like what he's saying about my mom, that, my mom was a victim. It could be a thing of, hey, maybe she did everything she did, she thought she was doing for the right reason, she was doing good, because the whole thing was like, right, we can't get home, can you get home? And it's like, we might not be able to without him. So maybe that's what they were hoping for, like, to use Max as a replacement. Maybe they were going to leave Jones here, or maybe they needed Jones aboard the ship so they can get back. So I'm like, I don't know, like maybe they were trying to get Max to a point that he could be their replacement for Jones, so that they could like sever ties with Jones, so they could ultimately kill him and keep Max, while he also served a similar role. I don't know, because it does paint the picture that Max wasn't his prisoner, he was Nora and Luis's. Like I said, I think it is a thing of them trying to do right, but I think it is just a thing of it was misguided. Like, and I think that's the irony behind it, considering like there's a lot of misguidedness in the Maines family. Like obviously Tripp, but his brother and everything, Jesse, how misguided he became. Like, I think maybe there's a parallel that can and needs to be drawn in that regard. So Mac, it's like, so is Max going to let him heal him? And even Max is like, I don't know. But Michael's like, no matter what choice you make, just know that I got your back, you know? So we'll see how that plays out. Liz is dealing with the whole, you know, trying to decide. Now she got, you know, it's like, right, I got the stuff I needed in Roswell, but it's like, now I'm back here at Generax. Like, so what am I going to do? If I do work on that stuff, anything I do will be Generax property. So, like, they'll be able to, like my previous project, they'll be able to do whatever they want to with it. And it's like, yeah, maybe later down the line, it could eventually serve the purpose it's meant to help people. But then it's like, if she tries to do it on her own, and Generax finds out, they can obviously snatch it up from her. So it's like, what am I going to do? And Heath ends up offering her help. You know, they go dancing. And it's like, right, just kind of trust me. And I think for Liz, it's kind of like with everything that's kind of going on, she's kind of like got her guard up and isn't so willing to trust people. Like, that's kind of like, after everything with Max, I think it just kind of put her guards back up. And so kind of letting Heath kind of take, you know, like, right, just kind of let go and let me kind of take the lead. He ends up suggesting, right, we'll keep working at Generax, and then, like, I'll pull in all the resources, put in all the calls. We can work at your house and make that our secret project. Generax will never know what we're up to. That way, you can keep working on your project without Generax finding out. But for her, she ultimately resigns because she decides that she can't take the chance. That if she does do what Heath was suggesting, Generax can take it legally, and there'll be nothing she could do about it. But it's like, for her, she wants, what Kyle said last episode really resonated with her, of like, my plan is to help people. I don't want to go about it hurting people. Like, I already did the thing of like, right, I kind of hurt Max in my own way. And it's like, that will, like, going about things that route will hurt people, because it's like, right, Generax will have access to her research and she can never do anything with it. And they'll have what could help other people, but they'll be hurt because I think you could almost make the argument, it's like, right, like, if I do it this way, I'm just going to be doing it like, it's going to be my ego getting in the way of, like, right, my reputation. Like, I want to get the notoriety and everything. It's like, somewhere along the way, you will kind of lose a little of the helping people. So that comes first and foremost. So if I have to do it on my own, I'm going to do it on my own. It's not going to be easy getting, like, the resources to do it without a big company backing me. But for her, it's like, I think this is the right thing. Like, I need to trust people again, specifically the people around me. Like, I need to trust in them. Like, if I work with them, I'll be able to find a way. It'd also be like, yeah, like, if I explain to Max, like, what I want to do, like, maybe we can find some compromise. I mean, we made the whole point to apologize to each other over, like, how everything, like, the fallout of last season. But then Heath was kind of like getting frustrated, and I was like, is there more to this? Like, are you not as on her side? Like, are we going to find out that you were sent to kind of seduce her information out of her? Now, whether it's going to be revealed that he's actually Deep Sky or something like that, I'm curious, is there going to be something in that vein? Or maybe Generax, like, did that because they knew she was hiding something, like her ex-fiance, like, knows and potentially set this all. I don't know, man. Once again, I'm reaching, but I just like Heath's reaction just then, because maybe it's a little bit of his own ego of like, no, we could do so much work together. Like, oh, like, maybe it's because he already tried to put it in all those calls. Like, they hadn't set nothing in stone yet, but I'm like, his reaction made me think like he was counting on this in many different regards. So it just seemed a little off, is all I'm saying. So at the same time, this is all going down, Kyle is dealing with someone who got beat up by Jordan and his buddy Zeke. But this guy can't go to the hospital because he's undocumented. And because the whole conversation is about the new sheriff. Because that dude who was harassed last episode brings up the fact is like, oh, what are you going to do about like the racial issues that have been going on? And she's like, I'm going to look into them. And then she quickly changes the subject. Because notice what she said. Black lives matter. Blah, blah, blah. Brown lives matter. It's like, no. The moment you do all that kind of, you just made it a hashtag all lives matter. It's like, you're missing the point. So that's the thing of like showing like how out of touch she is, not understanding what that means. And like, it just makes you kind of go, at least it's like, and then the moment that dude was like, yeah, like we needed a Valenti in that position. I'm like, are they going to shift Kyle over to become the next sheriff? I think, and they might be I think Max is going to be set up to become that person, because I think Kyle will trust him to do what's right by everyone. So I think that might be something we see kind of going forward. We'll have to wait and see on that front. But at the same time, we have our ending where Max is confronted by Jordan, and at the same time, at the depths of, the subconscious, Maria is there with Isabel trying to figure out, who it is. So it's like, they see Michael in the back. So it's like, no, it's not Michael. And they're like, is it Liz? Because we see someone with long black hair hugging Rosa. So I'm like, who could that be? And I'm like, well, in retrospect now, I'm thinking like, I'll go ahead and talk. I think that's probably Kyle's mom, most likely. But obviously, Max got up and he's like, I can't say anything. Like, at the end of the day, like, I was like, I knew it. Because at first they were like, could it be Liz's funeral? But then because I like how they do keep you on edge, because everything that's going on with Liz and Heath, you're like, oh, is Heath going to snap and hurt Liz? And at the same time, everything with Jordan and Kyle. But, like, I've known for a while, I was like, I'd even said it, like, please don't let it be Kyle, because I was like, man, he got it super hard, and it kind of sucks how things played out for Tyler in the Vampire Diaries, so I wouldn't want him. I was like, that would kind of suck, but it's like, yep, it is him. Jordan accidentally impales him on something, so, which obviously plays into like the whole thing of Michael being like, "You get away from this, it's going to get you killed." But it's like Jordan was like tired of the Valentis, because it's like, you guys protecting all of this, blah blah blah. Once again, ignorant stuff coming out of his mouth. But the moment Isabel and Maria went to the coffin, they saw that it was the Valenti symbol. So it's like, okay, so Kyle's hurt, but luckily they called Max and down. So Max gets there, and Kyle's in a very bad position. So Max is starting to heal him, but at the same time, Liz's mark starts lighting up. She passes out. All electricity and everything starts flying. Heath is there, and I'm like, there's going to be a whole bunch of damn questions about that. Like, he might notice the glowing mark on you when that was all going down. Hopefully it stopped glowing before then, but we'll see. But it's because Max is putting his everything into it. I mean, granted, saving Rosa, literally killed him last time. So Kyle's in enough of a state where it's like, I guess he's not dead yet, so they're gonna try it. Like, this is a little different, so it's not like you're full, but you're still giving it everything. Plus, he's in a weakened state because of his heart. So even if he's not doing a full revival, it's enough for it to kill him in the process. So immediately in my mind, I'm like, we're faking a murder. It's like Noah all over again. So part of my brain was like, well, no, we're covering up a murder. So part of me's wondering, are they like, because at first I was like, could they be faking Kyle's death to make it seem like Jordan gets locked up for what he did? So, because that was also another thing too. Like, it cements it even more when the lady comes over. Like, the lady, I think her name was Maya, who called about her husband being hurt. Like, I figured like that kind of solidified that it was Kyle. But especially because it's like, Max is like, right, Kyle, he's done so much for me. He's been an ally to us along the way. Because once again, like, Kyle's the centerpiece to all of this. Like, he's kind of helped every single person throughout this process, and all of them, alien and human alike. So it's like, he was a big part of this, and it cost him his life potentially. So, but my initial thought was, did they fake Kyle's death so that Jordan would take the fall and actually go to jail, or what? Because they did say covering up a murder. So are they trying to make it seem like Kyle died so they could cover up his murder, because there's nothing to because maybe they figured, like, because the sheriff is tight with Jordan's dad, who was the mayor, so like maybe the reason why they covered it up, because like, there'd be too much hell to pay if it was kind of found out that Jordan was involved, because then like the mayor and the sheriff would be bringing down hell to cover it up. So it's like, why don't we cover it up? This way Jordan will feel safe and he'll be caught. I don't know. Because I don't think Kyle is dead. I think Max is able to save him, but they're going to fake his death and make it seem like he is dead. So I don't know whether it's supposed to eat up. I don't know what to make of it. Like, why would they be covering up the murders? My whole point. So we'll ultimately have to wait and see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. I'm so curious. Like, I feel like my reasoning could make sense, but at the same time, I feel like that's not it. I'm so curious to find out the reasoning behind all of this. I'm probably like not thinking about it clearly enough to be like, oh, it's clearly for this reason that they would do that. But, hopefully we'll get the answer in the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Until next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.